So seeing how I did a John Romita Jr. video, I thought I might as well do a John Romita Sr. video. And by the way, I apologize in advance if I say John Romita Jr. when I'm talking about this. I mean John Romita Sr. So that one time that I said John Romita Jr. will be the only time that I actually mean John Romita Jr., except for that time. But anyways, I wanted to cover his first issue of Daredevil. So Wally Wood, I believe, was the artist on Daredevil before this, and I believe there was a falling out between him and Stan. So Stan brought John Romita in. But the funny thing is, it's actually layouts by Jack Kirby, so I'm guessing that Jack Kirby did the layouts for it, and then it was handed off. And apparently, and again, I mean John Romita Jr. when I say this, apparently when John Romita Jr. saw this John Romita Sr. doing this cover, that's what made him want to be a comic book artist. So it's a pretty interesting issue with Kazar. I guess that it was just kind of like a fill-in issue, and I don't know if John Romita Jr. or Senior, John Romita Sr. was the intended person that was going to take over, but he ended up taking over for about 8 issues of Daredevil, and probably did one of the most iconic runs of Daredevil for quite some time. I know that it wasn't Gene Colan. Who was it? The other artist who took over. Who was it? It's on the cover of the book. Oh no, it was Gene Colan. Gene Colan ended up taking over Daredevil for quite a long time. I think it was even up until Miller. I mean, he did Daredevil for a very, very long time. But this was kind of the issue that, Daredevil kind of got the iconic, not Daredevil, but Matt Murdock got that iconic look that we kind of remember and know to this day. I mean, John Romita Sr. probably does the most iconic Spider-Man anyone like ever. Like when you think about Spider-Man, when you see Spider-Man, anything that involves Spider-Man, John Romita Sr. is pretty much always attached to it for one reason or another. Probably because he drew the draw. He probably did the drawing because his Spider-Man is the Spider-Man that they love to put out there to show the world off, and nobody I think has done a Spider-Man as iconic since John Romita. But his Daredevil is iconic as well. So, first issue with Kazar, kind of boring. Kind of boring first issue. It's been quite a long time since I've read it. So I just kind of wanted to kind of do a flip through. The other thing that I love about these essentials is that you get to see the black and white. So you get to see him being inked. Who he's being inked by, I don't know. It might even just be him inking himself. I'm not entirely sure. It's very interesting that Jack Kirby did the layout. So I think Jack Kirby did the layout for the next issue as well. But you can definitely see that John Romita's brushwork, which he is inking, and I believe really takes place here. You can definitely see when he inks a book because it will be very, very thick black lines because he loves the brush. So, anyways, this is early John Romita Sr. I mean, it's great to see this stuff in black and white. I don't know why they stopped making these essentials. I mean, this is the stuff that you want to see, especially from an artist standpoint. And they were cheap. They were like $25 or something. But going through John Romita Jr. stuff, it made me think about how, I have John Romita Sr.'s Daredevil work, and it's fucking great. But you can definitely see that they were very stretched for time. I love this, him flipping in the air. No wonder why he went off and did Spider-Man. No wonder why, Stan wanted him to do Spider-Man. It's like he's doing Spider-Man already. I mean, I don't think I've seen Daredevil move like this before, but maybe I have. I haven't read, I remember reading the Wally Wood stuff, and it was pretty good. But there's something about John Romita Sr. I mean, just amazing. Amazing stuff. I love how solid his forms are. And the anatomy's right. I mean, it's a weird kind of, the big thing when you're drawing is you don't want to have, and I got to bring out the pencil because I have to be a douchebag. Um, you don't want your lines to line up with each other because it looks weird. That's why they say the thing about the straights versus curves thing. You have this kind of like mound in his in his um, in his forearm. That's not something you want to do, but it works and it looks good. And this is kind of me showing that even the greatest artists we've ever seen make mistakes, and not even mistakes, but do things like that because at that current point, that's the thing that most looks like a forearm. And you know what? I know that looks like a forearm, but you usually don't want the sides to be identical. But it works. It worked for John Romita Sr. Great fucking dinosaur. Not only is it great, but like, I love the detail on it. I don't know how much time they had in between months on this. If John Romita had to do this in a month, we're looking at January. So if we look back, how far back do I have to go to get there? I mean, if he did this in a month, that's pretty impressive. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty impressive. So October was 10. I don't know why they're... I don't know where the other one is. Sorry, I should have had this ready beforehand. I'm not sure because I can't find the fucking cover to save my life. Here it is. So, December. And this was January? So maybe Wood got off the book in October, and then they gave him time to do it. But if he had done this in a month, that's pretty fucking impressive. I love the hair there. That's definitely a brush. Yeah, I mean, just absolutely amazing drawings. Absolutely amazing inking. I mean, John Romita came out of the gate just an amazing artist. I think he worked on other comics before, probably romance comics, I believe is what it was, if I can remember right. But man, he was just absolutely amazing. His Daredevil, but the thing that I love about his Daredevil is in this early point, it's so pillowy. Like the forms are bulgy, which is funny because nobody gives him shit for that. Because he didn't do it past this point. But when I talk about John Romita Sr. and I talk about John Romita Jr. and people talk about how John Romita Jr. had his flaws, John Romita Sr. had flaws too. But he worked through it, and he's one of the most iconic artists out there. Absolutely love that. Great stuff. I mean, just, man, just going under, doing things underwater is very difficult to do. But he did such a great job with that force of that punch there. Just amazing. And he's really getting hit in this, you can feel the power of him getting hit in the stomach, and then he gets hit back. And the storytelling, man, absolutely amazing. I love the brush work. I think that one of the big things about John Romita Sr. is the brush work. If you want to learn, if you want to look at a guy, if you're inking, or if you're wanting to learn how to ink, John Romita Sr. is probably the last guy you want to look at because he's so good at what he does. You're not going to understand it because it's done to perfection. But it's just man, absolutely great. I mean, you just look at that and it makes you drool how fucking great it is. And it's so thick. The lines are so thick. I don't think there's a thin line on here. Maybe even... because he's getting these thin lines with the brush. Which is pretty interesting. Great stuff. Absolutely great stuff. Man. I love his Daredevil. I really do love his Daredevil. And I love his anatomy. I think his anatomy is just, oh man, look at that. Oh, the back's, everything's back. Because he's getting hit. That figure, man, that laying figure, really difficult. And the body's twisting. The middle point of the chest is there. And the middle point of the crotch is there. But it just works. What a great piece. Look at that. I love that. That's fucking awesome. I love this. Like, it's just, anytime you can draw animals that well, and you can draw fur and hair that well, and you can ink it that well. I imagine reading Daredevil and just being like, at the time, and just being like, it's so, like, it's darker, it's just has this dark feel to it, and I think this might be what made Daredevil so iconic as John Romita Sr. But yeah, I love it. I mean, I love the foreshortening of those legs coming back at you. The legs coming at you. I mean, that doesn't look that great, but it reads. And it's just amazing. I don't know. I just fawn over this. I think it's great. But and then he goes on and does great stuff later on, and then it's weird because when he gets off the book, this might take me a minute. I should probably just go to the front. I probably would be better off just going to the front and finding out the pages. But whoever takes over, I think it might be Gene Colan. I could be wrong though. It then you start noticing, okay, the brush has to be used with Daredevil. You have to use the brush for Daredevil because, I don't know, Johnny Romita's still on it at 22, at 19. I don't know when he leaves, but it's very, I just love the use of the brush. And I feel like before John Romita, it was like not as, it wasn't, the brush was being used, but it wasn't being used as well. I imagine picking up issue 12 and then picking up issue, 9 or whatever at the same time and being like, what the hell happened? Like, this issue looks great and this issue looks good, but it doesn't look as great as 12. So Daredevil is one of those series that I think was always going forward, and I don't think it ever went back. Did not sell very well, and I think it was because people were kind of tired of Gene Colan at some point. But man, John Romita Sr. really helped kind of mold that Daredevil that we know and love to this day. So I just kind of wanted to take a look at it and kind of go through it, and I love looking at these black and white, black and white inked pieces. I mean, I like the color too, but I like looking at the ink work. It's great for when you're trying to kind of ink your own comics and go, how do I get the line weight and figure out the differences between line weights. The thing about John Romita is that these line weights are pretty thick, but you can definitely see, periods where he kind of brings that line down a little bit. So, yeah, absolutely awesome to look at. Just kind of wanted to kind of take a look at it. And I think the layouts are done by Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby was a busy guy back then. So, yeah. If you're a Daredevil fan and you just kind of wanted to take a look at, and you wanted to see Jack Kirby laying it out and John Romita doing everything else, this is definitely the video for that, because it's not every day that you get to see something like that, and I'm happy that I have it because I can look at it in black and white. I think if it were in color, it would have been good, but I don't think it would have been as interesting. So, yeah, nice little story to look at.